the infallibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to, for example, like the prophets and the imams. But those who have the al-asma al-sughra, like Sayyidah Zainab alayha salam, like al-Baneen, like Sayyidah Fatima al-Ma'suma, the sister of Imam al-Rida salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And we said, one of the goals of commemorating the occasions that are related to these individuals is that we learn that the religion that Rasulullah came with, it's not only theories, and we are able to reach perfection. Because these individuals were not given the infallibility like Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim, and yet they reached perfection, even if they lived in very hard environment or circumstances and the conditions were not suitable for them. Like nowadays, we go through a very minor hardships and that would affect us. Like some people you would see them, and this is one of the misconceptions that the people go through. And the people ask these questions when they go through that state. What state is that? For example, he doesn't pray or he's not practicing religion, and then out of nowhere, he wants to practice religion. He starts praying. And then this is a question that was actually asked by someone. He said, Shaykhna, I started to pray last week. I prayed the first day, and then my first sheep died. The second day I prayed, the second sheep died. This guy is a shepherd. And then my sheep started to die. And I blame it on religion. Some people, they say as a joke. Some people are serious about it. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أَيَحْسَبُ الَّذِينَ أَحَسِبَ النَّاسَ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ وَعَلَيْكُمُ السَّلَامُ. Would the people think that they would be left to say that we believe and they won't be tested? This is your test. You can't go and pass the mathematics test without being like, you won't pass in school without going through these tests. Any subject you want to finish, you have to be tested for it. Otherwise, you won't be authorized to practice as a doctor later if you are in science, biology, and chemistry. You won't be allowed to practice, or you won't take your license in driving if you are not tested. You won't allowed to be taken the license in being a doctor if you weren't tested in the profession that you studied in the university. So, talking about these individuals would tell us that it is possible to reach perfection. One of these individuals is Al-Qasim, the son of Imam Al-Kadhim. Not Al-Qasim, who was martyred with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That was the son of Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam. Al-Qasim, Imam Al-Kadhim salawatullahi wa salam alayhi, one of the most important individuals who gave a lot to the religion, who people really do not mention about him. Yesterday I asked some of the mu'mineen who always hold majalis in a different community, I said, have you ever heard about this individual? Have you ever held a majlis or spoke about this individual? They said, no, I never heard of him. In fact, us attending now in a center, listening to a lecture, us following a religion of Rasulullah, the religion that guarantees the success in the Day of Judgment, this kind of achievement that we are having now is thanks to Al-Qasim, the son of Imam Al-Kadhim salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Before speaking in details about him, there is a small introduction that I want to speak about that is related to his life. After Salat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he says in one of the narrations, As-sabru thalatha, that patience is on three types. Sabrun ala al-musiba, being patient during calamity, when you are being tested, when you are going through hardship. Wa sabrun ala al-ta'a, and a patience on the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on your worship. When you have that patience, even if you have things to do and you don't have time and you feel that kind of burden, you have to be patient when it comes to worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it requires to refrain from your desires. وَصَبْرٌ عَلَى الْمَعْصِيَةِ, and a patience from committing sins. When this desire calls upon me, and the nafs calls upon me, and commands me into doing the evil stuff, then I have to be patient. 3 types of patience. Then he says, Rasulullah, whoever was patient during the calamity, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lifts the calamity from him, Allah will give him on the day of judgment 300 levels. Between the level and the level, the distance between the earth and the heavens. So high levels in heaven, 300 levels in heaven. The distance between the first and the second is the same distance between the earth and the heavens. And whoever is patient with his worship and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will give him 600 levels in heaven. Between the first level and the second level, the same distance between the earth until the throne. And whoever was patient with the ma'siyah, with the sin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him 900 levels. Between each level and the level that's after it, the distance between the earth and the end of the throne. And the best of those who had sabr ala ta'ah, what we want to speak about, the basics of a proper practicing Muslim, a person who wants to follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is to refrain and abstain from the ma'asi and stick to the ta'ah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the one type of patience that I want to concentrate on is as-sabr ala ta'ah, being patient with the worship. Some people, they struggle when it comes to the daily prayers. They struggle with Salat al-Fajr. They struggle with fasting. They struggle with the simplest of the duties that are considered being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we look at people, they were patient on the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on something that's much bigger than that. Like Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim, Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Even that they were oppressed. Not only them, even their families. I will give you one example. At the time of Harun al-Rashid, you know, like there was the Bani Umayyah at the time of the Prophet until the time of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and Imam Zayn al-Abidin. And then during the time of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, started to be conflicts between Bani Umayyah and Bani al-Abbas. And these were cousins. But they were fighting over the throne. After that, during the time of Bani al-Abbas, during the time of Harun al-Rashid in specific, they wanted to eliminate Ahlul Bayt. Not because they caused or like they were a reason, they were a threat physically. But they were a threat to their beliefs, to their what they considered, because they had a kingdom they wanted to protect. And the religion was the enemy of their kingdom. Because this religion has justice, and they don't want justice. They want the money, they want the lands, they want everything to themselves. While Ahlul Bayt were the obstacle between them and achieving that. People were attracted to Ahlul Bayt from their beauty. So what they did, they wanted to kill everyone. One of the things that Harun Rashid did to the families of Ahlul Bayt, he sent his soldiers to the house of Imam al-Kathim, and they took all the abayat of the women and they left one abaya for each woman. And this is apart from the clothes that covers their body, the abaya that they actually can go out with and they can pray with. For what reason? Because he doesn't want them to hide their pregnancy if they're pregnant. In case they have the Imam that is going to be next, they want to know so they can kill him. And after that, it became worse at the time of Mutawakkil al-Abbasi, the grandson of Harun. What did he do? He not only took all the abayat, he took all the abayat and he left one abaya for all the women. So what they used to do in order to pray, a woman would pray and then she would take off the abaya and give it to the next. And then the next woman would pray in the abaya and then give it to the next for 15 years until that one abaya that they had became so started to tear apart. This is the kind of oppression that Ahlul Bayt used to go through, even the women, even the children, and yet they were patient with the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worshipping Allah. And they stuck to the path. And they did the right thing. One of the examples as well, why Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, you think how many Imam Hussein alayhi salam, how many children did he have in Karbala? Who knows? How many children, I mean, of the boys, of the males? 4, 3. What were their names? What is his actual name? Ali al-Asghar, Ali al-Akbar. Who else? Ali Sajjad. So all of them were Ali. We still think that he named them all Ali just for the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen. In fact, no. He named them all of them Ali because there was a message. And the reason appeared in Karbala, why he named them all Ali. There was a message that was sent to Umar ibn Sa'd. He said, whoever you find in the tents of Abi Abdullah that his name is Ali, kill him. And cut him into pieces, because he knew that the Imam after Imam Hussein, his name is Ali. So that's why they killed Ali al-Akbar and they cut him into pieces. And later on, when they went to Al-Kufa, to the palace of Ubaidullah bin Ziyad, when he asked Imam Zayn al-Abidin, because he was sick, they didn't kill him, he said, what's your name? He said, Ali. He said, أَوَمَا قَتَلَ اللَّهُ عَلِيًّا, didn't Allah kill Ali? Then Imam Zayn al-Abidin said, I had a brother that his name was Ali and the people killed him. So to that point, they were struggling. They were hiding themselves. Even the mother of Al-Qasim ibn Imam al-Kadhim, which is the mother of Imam Rida alayhi salam, which is the mother of Sayyidah Fatima al-Ma'suma, she had few names. Her name was Arwa. Her name was Tuktam. Her name was Najma. Her name was Sabika. She had few names, more than 7, 8 names. Why is that? To hide. If the news were leaked that she was pregnant, they would say, like, for example, Taktam is pregnant. They would send people, where's Taktam? Her name is Khayzuran. Her name is Sabika. Or her name is Najma. This is one of the reasons. They had to use multiple names. Being patient on obedience and submitting to Allah, which is submitting to Allah, is submitting to Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim li dhikrihim sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Being patient with submission, with obedience, needs 2 characteristics. And inshallah, my lecture today is full of stories of the companions of Ahlul Bayt. 2 main characteristics. First characteristic is knowing the Ma'soom, having the ma'rifah, the proper knowledge in the Imam. And knowing the Imam is not only knowing his name and the date of his birth and his history. Knowing the Imam is knowing his right. Knowing that he is the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That following him is following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so many things. You go read Ziyarat al-Jami'ah and you will understand the level of Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salam alayhim. These 2 characteristics are supposed to be provided in a person who wants to be a person who submits to Ahlul Bayt. Like Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he was the companion of Rasulullah. And Rasulullah told him that you will meet my great-grandson, great-great-great-grandson, who? Imam al-Baqir. And when you meet him, deliver my salutations to him. And Imam al-Baqir is like 40 years after Jabir. You know, like after Rasulullah, there is Ali ibn Abi Talib, and there is Imam Hassan, and there is Imam Hussein. And after Imam Hussein, who? Imam Zayn al-Abidin. And then after Zayn al-Abidin, that's Imam al-Baqir. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, one of the great companions who sat with Rasulullah and he heard the words of Rasulullah. Every day after the martyrdom of Rasulullah, he goes to the masjid and he says, Ya Baqir al-Ilm, and he calls upon the Imam al-Baqir, and Imam al-Baqir wasn't even born. And then when he was born, he kept going, and the people started to say about him, you're crazy. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari became crazy, he lost his mind, until eventually Imam al-Baqir was young, and then Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari met him. And he hugged him and said, Rasulullah delivers his salutations to you. So 2 things. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari has total submission because he knows Rasulullah. Haqq al-ma'rifah, the first characteristic. The second characteristic, which is what? Nukran al-Dhat, being selfless. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari did not care what the people say about him. They said about him that he's crazy. They said about him that he kharraf, he's hallucinating. Us, we should be the same, living in this country. No matter what your friend at school say to you, no matter what you go through in the community with your friends about your religion, about your practicing, about your prayers, I'm not supposed to be upset about that. Because a person who totally submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should not care. Because what I'm doing out of knowledge, out of ma'rifah. At the same time, I have the second characteristic that would make me a person who's successful in the Day of Judgment, which is what? Nukran al-Dhat, being selfless. Another Jabir al-Ju'fi, one of the companions of Imam Zayn al-Abidin and Imam al-Baqir. He was in a travel with his friend, and he was a alim, a faqih. He used to teach a lot of people religion. And then he received a message from the Imam. He opened that message. His friend said he was normal all the time. He was joking with me, like we were laughing and everything. But when he opened that message, he frowned. He kept frowning until we arrived to our destination. And then I went to my house. He went to his house. After a few days, I wanted to visit him. I wanted to see what happened to him. What did he read in that message? He said, and when he opened the door for me, he had put a stick in between his knees like a horse. And then he had like hanged something in his neck, and he's acting like crazy. And he's jumping around, playing with the children, like a crazy man. And they said, Subhanallah, what happened to Jabir al-Ju'fi? Yesterday he was a alim, a scholar, a faqih, who was teaching, and now he's different. He became crazy. After a few days, the tyrant at the time of Bani al-Abbas was there, and then he sent to the governor of the country, of the place where Jabir al-Ju'fi was living in. He sent to him, there is a guy in your place, his name is Jabir al-Ju'fi. I want you to bring him and decapitate him. And then he asked about Jabir al-Ju'fi. Who's Jabir al-Ju'fi? They said, this man, he was a scholar, but now he's crazy. He sent to ذلك اللعين, to the tyrant at the time, back a message that this man became crazy. He said, then leave him. Any other person would ask Jabir al-Ju'fi to act like crazy, he wouldn't. But because he knows the Imam, he submits to the Imam, and he's selfless. He doesn't care what the people would say about him, even if he's a big scholar. So, Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Al-Qasim ibn al-Imam al-Kadhim, the son of Imam al-Kadhim, same thing. He was selfless, and he knows the aura of the Imam, and we will know his story later when I speak. What did he sacrifice? Why did he leave Baghdad? He lived in Baghdad with Imam al-Kadhim, and he left Baghdad straight away after the martyrdom of Imam al-Kadhim, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. He left Baghdad. Why? Because they wanted to kill the Imam. For example, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, before Imam al-Kadhim, when he was about to die, he wrote, every Imam has to say who's the Imam after him. But because the Imams were being followed and they were being killed, the La'in at the time, Mansur al-Dawaniqi, he asked Muhammad bin Sulaiman, the governor at Baghdad, he sent him a message. He said, the Imam after Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, bring him and cut his head. The Imam that he told us about. He said the Imam mentioned 5 names who's going to be after him, and you are one of them, Mansur al-Dawaniqi. And that was surprising. Mansur al-Dawaniqi was a tyrant. Who received the news? Abu Basir, one of the companions of Ahlul Bayt in Najaf. When he was in the mosque, people told him that the Imam died. He fell on the ground, he fainted. And then when they woke him up, he asked them, what did the Imam say? He said, the Imam said that after me there is one of 5. Abdullah al-Aftah, the older son of Imam Sadiq, and Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim, Imam al-Kadhim, and Mansur al-Dawaniqi, and Muhammad bin Sulaiman, and Hamida al-Musaffat. Hamida is a woman. Then Abu Basir smiled. They said to him, now you just fainted and you were crying over the Imam, and now you're smiling? because he's a Shia and he knows Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim, he knew what the Imam wanted from that. He knew, he said Abdullah al-Aftah wouldn't be the Imam because he had some kind of disability. And the Imam is supposed to be perfect. And Hamid al-Musaffat is a woman and the Imam cannot be a woman. And Muhammad bin Sulaiman, he's known, he's a Abbas, he's a tyrant, he wouldn't be the Imam. And the Imam protected his son, Imam Musa al-Kadhim, by mentioning Mansur al-Dawaniqi, the tyrant of the time, which leaves who? Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Same thing that happened with Al-Qasim ibn al-Imam al-Kadhim. When al-Imam al-Kadhim died in prison, Harun al-Rashid sent a message. He said, I want to know who is the Imam after that. And I want you to find him and I want you to kill him. Imam al-Kadhim, what did he say? He said to Al-Qasim, he said, you accept the blame, leave the people say that you're the Imam and you leave, you flee. Don't let anyone know and you leave. And he told Imam Rida not to say a word. So he sent later his people, his detectives, his spies in order to spy on Imam Rida alayhi salam to see what he does, whether he goes to the masjid, whether he answers the questions of the people, whether he takes the khums or not. And then they followed him. Imam al-Kadhim had told Imam Rida not to say a word for a few years. And then they walked behind Imam Rida. He left his house, he went to the market, he bought a dog and a sheep and a rooster. And he went back home. So they wrote to the Harun Rashid. He said, this Al-Rida Ali ibn Musa Rida did this and that. He said, he's not the Imam. This man is like a fan of animals, you know. He likes birds and sheep. So he's not the Imam. That leaves who? His son, his younger brother, Al-Qasim ibn al-Imam al-Kadhim, salawatullahi wa salam. So Al-Qasim ibn al-Imam al-Kadhim left for what reason? To defend the Imam of his time. To defend the religion, so the Imam can stay alive. Ali al-Akbar even in Karbala. Why did he die? Why did he sacrifice himself? For the sake of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, so he can stay alive. So Imam Zayn al-Abidin stayed alive, and then later on when he was about to be killed in the majlis of Ubaidillah ibn Ziyad, Sayyidah Zainab, she was the one who defended him. Al-Qasim ibn al-Imam al-Kadhim left Baghdad. He started to walk at night, hide during the day, until he arrived to a place that's called Sawra, or Bakhamra, that is in Iraq. He arrived to that place, to that village, and he didn't know whether that village is like followers of Imam Ali or not. And he arrived to a river. He was in between the palm trees, and he heard two women talking beside the river. And they were arguing about something, and one of them said to the other, she said, لا وحق صاحب الوصية أو لا وحق بيعة الغدير. By the name of the main individual of Ghadir, this is what I'm telling you. And then he heard, this is Amir al-Mu'mineen. He wanted to make sure. He went and asked her. He said, do you know Sahib Bay'at al-Ghadir? She said to him, how wouldn't I know him? He is al-Daribu bil-Sayfayn, al-Ta'inu bil-Rumhayn, Asadullah al-Ghalib, Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When he realized that this place is for the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he said to her, take me to the head of the tribe. She said, Shaykh al-Ashir, the head of the tribe, is my father. And then he started to walk, and they were walking behind him, directing him to the path. And as he arrived, of course, the traditions is that the guest would stay for 3 days. And after 3 days, that's when they asked him. He stayed for 3 days. After these 3 days, the head of the tribe came to him and asked him, he said, who are you? Who's your family? He said to him, I can't tell you, but I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi saying that being a guest is for 3 days. الضيافة ثلاثة أيام فما زاد على ذلك صدقة. And what's above 3 days is a charity. And I don't eat charity. And then the man begged him. He said, please stay. He said, if I want to stay, if you want me to stay, I would want to work for you. This is my first condition. The second condition is I don't want to tell you my name and my family. So this is the first sacrifice. He sacrificed his name. He sacrificed his identity. He hid it. He was 33 years old, a person who was not married, anyone would like to get married at that age and even younger, he sacrificed all that just because he submits to the Imam. He submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he defends the Imam of his time. First thing, he sacrificed his name. He said, I don't want you to know me, my name. He said, I would work for you, I would bring the water for you from the river, because the women, that's not a proper job for them. He started to go to the river, to the Euphrates, and then he would go. These two girls would be walking in the field and they would hear him weeping beside the river. He said, he would tell the river, Ya Shatt al-Furat, Ama zilta tajri, are you still running, O Euphrates? And Imam al-Hussein was forbidden from drinking from you. And then he would go back holding the water. And then the head of the tribe would hear Al-Qasim, the son of Imam al-Kadhim, praying and worshipping and supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, weeping in his room. And when he saw that from him, he went to him. He said, I want you to get married to one of my daughters. But before that, I want you to tell me about your family. We want to ask about your tribe. He said, I would love to get married to one of your daughters, but if you want me to get married to one of your daughters, I won't speak about my identity. This is my condition. Otherwise, I would leave. Then he said, no. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa says, Man atakum, إذا أتاكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه. Whoever comes to you that you are satisfied with his religion and his morals, accept him as a spouse to your daughter. The morals and the religion. And then he marries his daughter. After a year, she gives birth to a daughter. Her name was Fatima. And they used to call him Al-Gharib, the stranger. That was his name in that area. His daughter, she grew older. She became 3 years old. And she would be playing with her friends. And then they would mock her. They would say, like, the daughter of the stranger. Bintul Gharib, Bintul Gharib. She went to her father crying. She said to him, oh father, why don't we have a tribe? My friends, they keep mocking me. They keep telling me things. That I am the daughter of the stranger. And he started to cry. Even that. Imagine as a father, your kid being humiliated by his friends. What would you do? Just to submit to the order of the Imam and to defend the Imam of his time, which is supposed to be our role now. To defend or to stand up for the Imam of our time, Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, Ajjallah ta'ala farjih, who's waiting for us. So he took her hand and he went to the rooftop. He said to her, oh daughter, look towards the Medina. You are from the greatest of the houses. You are from the greatest of the tribes. And after that, when he became 48, from 33 until 48, living and no one knows his name, sacrificing everything, his life and everything. After when he became 48, he became so sick. Some narrations indicate that he was poisoned. He became so sick, and then his father-in-law came, the head of the tribe. He came to him, he said, now it's the time to tell me. Who are we going to offer our condolences to? What about your daughter? Don't you want her to know the family? He said, I will tell you now that I'm dying, I will tell you. He said, do you know that funeral that was thrown on the bridge of Baghdad? That prisoner? He said, that prisoner was our Imam, Imam al-Kadhim. He said, yes, I am Al-Qasim, the son of Imam al-Kadhim. Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And then his father-in-law started to cry and weep. He said, and you were serving us the whole time, bringing us water? And then he said, it's all right. You were good with me. You were a perfect host. You gave me a job. You accepted me as a husband to your daughter. You fed me. You gave me a house. And I'm so thankful with this. And you are from the inhabitants of heaven. But I have a wasiyah. After I leave this world, I want you to take my daughter in the next Hajj and go to Mecca and then go to Medina, and she would know the house. She would know the dome, our house. And these houses are empty from men. You'd be only finding women, orphans, and kids. He said she would know and let her meet my mother. And that's what happened. Al-Qasim Imam al-Kadhim stayed a few days suffering from that illness until he left this world. And he went, his father-in-law took the daughter Fatima to Mecca and then to Medina. And then when the mother of Al-Qasim Ibn al-Imam al-Kadhim opened the door, she saw the daughter. She said, Wallah, shama'il waladi. This is by the name of Allah, the characteristics of my son Al-Qasim. And then she hugged her. She said, who are you people? Where is my son Al-Qasim? And then they told her that Al-Qasim left this world. But the mother of Al-Qasim Ibn al-Imam al-Kadhim, she heard that her son died. But she heard as well that he was in a very huge funeral. His body was washed. He was taken upon the shoulders in a coffin towards his grave by a lot of people. Because that place that he stayed in, he was a teacher there. He taught them religion. More than 25 ulama at the time, they became ulama because of Al-Qasim al-Kadhim. And as I said, if it wasn't for him taking the blame or defending the Imam of his time, Imam Rida alayhi salam, we wouldn't know an Imam that's called Imam Rida. And then the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi would have not been passed on. Imam Rida would have been killed. So she heard that her son was taken to his grave with honor, with dignity. But Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam حضرت في أرض كربلاء. She attended Karbala. And she saw Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi السلام. اتقل من حاضر يا حسين يا ابني يا ابني يا ابني يا من ريت ذباحك ذبحني اسعدني على ابني يلتحبني Al-Qasim ibn al-Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam knew the value of his Imam Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. That's why he stayed beside the Euphrates weeping over Abu Abdullah al-Husayn day after day, speaking to the Furat, saying, "O Furat, may you not be sweet after the death of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam." And Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam saw with her own eyes what happened with her son in Karbala, being slaughtered, Shimr stepping upon the chest of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. من الوالدة والقلب لهفان ودور عزبني وين ما كان ودور عزبني وين ما كان أفاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط فرات. يا الله صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Since we still have 10 minutes left, I was asked to give you a short Q&A session. If anyone has a question about anything, I'll be answering. I know that there's not enough people. But if there's any question, we can answer, or we can move on to the... اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين، ولتعجيل الفرج واستجابة الدعاء وقبول الأعمال وقضاء الحوائج وشفاء المرضى، ولغفران الذنوب لأرواح أموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات الشهداء والعلماء من مات على الإيمان، نهد الجميع ثواب ما قرأنا والثواب المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.